What substance is as hard as a rock, and yet is also so soft that you can put your hand through it? But it can also be invisible and as light as air. Any idea what this material might be? Here are some more clues. This substance can pile up on the ground, and you can even ski on it. A boat can glide across it, and it is even possible to walk on top of it when it is frozen. If you guessed that this substance is water, then you are absolutely correct. We usually think of water as a liquid, but it can also exist as a solid in the form of ice or snow, and as a gas in the form of water vapor, as seen in these clouds. How is it possible that water can exist as a solid, liquid, and gas? During the next few minutes, we are going to explore solids, liquids, and gases, and study how these phases of matter change. As you know, all objects are made of matter. Everything you see, and even things that you do not see, are made of matter. Matter is anything that takes up space. Here on Earth, there are three main types of matter: solids, liquids, and gases. A phase of matter describes the state of matter, for example, whether it is a solid, liquid, or gas. This is the substance water in its liquid phase. This is the substance water in its solid phase. And this is the substance water in its gas phase. What would happen to this ice cube if we were to let it sit on the table for 30 minutes? As you can clearly see, it is gradually melting. Originally, the ice cube was in its solid phase, but after 30 minutes, it has changed to its liquid phase and is now just a puddle of water. We call the changing from one phase to another a phase change. During the next few minutes, we will explore phase changes. In order to understand this more clearly, let's first see what makes solids, liquids, and gases different from one another. Sometimes you may feel tired and not very energetic. But at other times, you may feel like you have lots of energy. Energy is a term that can be explained many different ways. One way to explain energy is the speed at which particles move in a substance. All matter is made of particles, and the particles are always moving. In solids, such as this piece of wood, the particles move relatively slowly. We can say that solids have a low amount of energy. There are many different kinds of liquids, including the water in the stream, and the milk in this glass, and even antifreeze used to prevent the fluids in this car engine from freezing. Liquids have more energy than solids. In liquids, such as this glass of water, the particles move faster than in solids. In other words, liquids have more energy than solids, and the particles move faster than in solids. We breathe gases from the air around us. Many times we cannot see these gases. Other times it is possible to see gases. And sometimes it is possible to see steam rising from a hot bowl of soup. Gases have a much greater amount of energy than solids or liquids. The particles in gases tend to move faster and are farther apart than in solids and liquids. As we said earlier, matter exists in one of three phases, either as a solid, a liquid, or a gas. And matter can change its phase. What causes matter to change its phase, and what are some of the different types of phase changes? Changes of phase involve gaining or losing heat energy. We can feel heat energy, like the heat coming from this fire. The air in this freezer has less heat energy and is quite cold. Let's look at a phase change by starting with ice. We can measure the heat energy of the ice by using a thermometer. If you look closely, you can see the thermometer reads -1 degree centigrade. Water below 0 degrees centigrade exists in the solid phase. What do you think will happen to this ice if we were to add heat energy? We will put this beaker of ice over a hot flame to see what happens to the ice. Over several minutes, you can see that the ice gradually melts to form liquid water. Melting is the phase change from a solid to a liquid. During cold weather, the water in this lake freezes. But as the weather warms, the ice melts. A similar thing happens with this popsicle if it is left in the sun on a warm day. The popsicle melts and changes to a liquid. What do you think will happen if we add more energy? The water in the beaker is in the liquid phase. The temperature of the water in the beaker is 65 degrees centigrade. What do you think will happen if we heat it? Let's look and see. We will put it over this hot flame and observe what happens. After a few minutes, you can see the temperature has risen to 90 degrees centigrade. Let's continue to heat it for a few more minutes. As you can see, the water now has bubbles rising in it, and water vapor, or steam, is coming off its surface. The water is now boiling. Boiling occurs when a liquid changes to a gas. If we were to let the beaker of water continue heating, eventually all the water would change to a gas. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. We often boil water in order to cook food properly, such as rice. And sometimes we add water vapor or steam to the air in our homes when the air seems dry. When water boils and it changes from a liquid to a gas, the particles move faster and spread out. Have you ever wondered why the water level in a fish tank becomes lower over time? Or when a glass of water is left on a shelf for several days, the water eventually disappears. Where does the water go? It gradually changes to a gas and evaporates into the air. Evaporation is the process of a liquid changing to a gas. In evaporation, the particles of a liquid move faster as they gain energy at the surface of the liquid. Eventually, the particles escape from the surface as a gas. Puddles often form after a rainstorm, and after time we say they dry up. But in reality, what actually happens is that the water in the puddles is evaporating. Large bodies of water, such as the ocean, evaporate huge amounts of water, which eventually fall back to the earth in the form of rain, which we call the water cycle. We walk, move, and live in a huge layer of air. This air is made up of different types of gases. Some of this gas is water. Usually we cannot see this water gas, but when there is a lot of water in the air, we can see it in the form of fog. These clouds also contain concentrated water vapor. As this water vapor cools, or loses energy, the gases in it turn to liquid and fall as rain. The surface of this glass of water is cold. Now, let's look at it closely. Notice the small drops of water on the outside of the glass. Did they come from the water inside the glass? No, they came from the air surrounding it. The air surrounding the glass is made of water vapor, and when it loses energy, it changes to liquid. This process is called condensation. Condensation is the process of a gas changing to a liquid. You may have observed a thin film of water on the inside of a window. This too is condensation, and it appears when the water vapor condenses on the cool glass. This fruit drink is a liquid that has a temperature of 20 degrees centigrade. Do you like popsicles? How would you go about making a popsicle from this fruit drink? You will need to put it in the freezer where it will lose energy. Let's leave it in here for a little while. Now let's take a look. As you can see, the liquid fruit drink has turned into a solid popsicle. When we placed the liquid fruit drink into the freezer, it lost energy, and the particles slowed down, and therefore it became a solid. Freezing occurs when a liquid changes to a solid. Water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade and becomes ice. Ice is a hard solid on which we can walk and even skate. Other things, like butter, become solids at even higher temperatures. Butter is a solid at room temperature, while other materials, like water, do not become a solid until it reaches 0 degrees centigrade. During the past few minutes, we have explored the different phases of matter and the energy of particles that make up solids, liquids, and gases. We have also seen how matter can change its phase through melting and boiling when energy is gained. And we have seen how matter can change its phase through condensation and freezing when energy is lost. Take notice of the phase changes that occur in your home, school, and neighborhood. You just might be surprised at what you observe. Fill in the correct word when you hear this tone. Good luck, and let's get started. 1. Ice is a good example of matter in its phase. 2. Ice changing to water is an example of 3. The particles in gases move than in solids. 4. Water vapor is an example of matter in its phase. 5. A is a tool used to measure heat energy. 6. Occurs when a liquid changes to a solid. 7. Water boils at degrees centigrade. 8. Is the gradual process of water changing to a gas. 9. Condensation is the process of a gas changing to a 10. Particles in solids move than in liquids.